I've come to the realization that 15 minutes of Becky is definitely too much in a Spy Family episode, because goddamn, listening to her, and most importantly, having her imagine Loid pretty much moan her name, and seeing my boy in a way I never want to see again, felt borderline illegal. Like, it's one hand to have, like, a kid have like a little crush. I mean, I remember, when I was a young lad, I had crushes on people far too old for me as well. And that's why it's like, in general, it's just like, okay, it's not going anywhere. And we know it's not gonna go anywhere because Loid's a grown-ass adult who's not a weirdo. But it's when she imagines him, and the fact that when the maid leaves, as soon as the maid leaves, I get a bad feeling because the maid keeps her in check. That maid, I'm putting my foot down. She is not allowed to leave Becky unattended. School's a different story, but oh my lord, man, like, this was the weirdest episode of Spy Family for me because I legitimately enjoyed watching. I never not, like, there's always something. Like, even when Becky's weirding me out, I'm looking at Anya, I'm like, damn, that face is hilarious. Or actually, in this case, I think Loid had my favorite meme faces. He was me. He was like, bruh, what in the actual hell? And once Yor came into the equation of the episode and her entire situation, it became a lot more enjoyable for me. But it was the weirdest episode, and it's weird to have this as the second to last episode of a season, and I'm like, bruh, if they would have ended the season with something like this, I probably would have been legitimately salty. But in general, this was a fine episode, but there's so much I want to talk about, which is weird because this is the type of episode normally I would just avoid talking about because, like, it didn't do a whole lot for me. But there's so many mixed emotions watching Becky's nonsense, and then, like, what they decide to do for the final 5 minutes of it, that I'm like, we gotta talk about this. But what an episode. It definitely made me feel borderline illegal watching Becky unfiltered like that because she makes it creepy, man. Like, she takes it to a level that just ain't right. I do a full live reaction to today's episode over on my Patreon, so if you do want to see, like, me just completely broken, I mean, I had to pause at one point just to collect myself, because I'm like, I just ain't believing this nonsense. It's over there if you're interested. Now, I love Spy Family. We are now 36 episodes into it total, I think. 35 or 36, you obviously see the title. I don't, so forgive me. But either way, we've seen a lot, and there is a large cast of characters. And I think out of the extra kid group, in terms of Anya's school, Damien's my favorite part. I always just really like it. I think it's kind of like a sweet, they clearly have a crush on each other, or at least he has a stronger crush on her than Anya does on him, but eventually it'll probably blossom into a bit more. But it's very innocent, it's very wholesome, and that's kind of what I like about it because it just feels normal. Becky's a completely different wild card. Becky with Anya, I do enjoy. I think in general, she doesn't do a whole lot for me as a character, but I do generally like, okay, she's on screen with Anya. It's not a bad scene, but it's a little bit different when she's like watching her soaps and then she barges into their home with the mission of wifing Loid. And I'm like, it's too much for me, man. It really is. And I already know there's gonna be commenters who'd be like, Brandon, get over it. It's not that. I'm like, I'm not even mad. I'm not even saying it ruins the show, but I'm not a big fan of it. And I think that's a pretty fair thing to say, especially when I'm forced to watch this girl. Imagine my boy blushing for this girl, and I'm like, nah. I'm like, this ain't right, bro. This fucking weird. There's no other way to put it. That's fucking weird. And the fact that this might be the most disappointed, actually it is, the most disappointed I've been in Anya. Anya is my favorite character. She is the glue that holds this family together. Yor would be dead, not only just without her weapon and everything in that previous fight, the boat would have exploded if not for Anya winning that ticket, let alone all the extra things that she did in order to expose the bombs. Anya is the only reason these characters are still alive in terms of the main family, but Anya siding with Becky because of the chefs. I was like, I get it, she is a kid. We have to remember Anya is a kid and she's very easily persuaded. But my lord, please do not side with your weirdo friend. Never side with your weirdo friend, but some of her faces, man, killed me. And like I said, once like Yor came into the picture, that's when it got a lot better because, I mean, Yor, she's the wife energy right there. Yeah, she's a little murderous, but I can change her. It's okay. She'll be okay. I love the idea that we have the dumbest scene imaginable held together by the most caring and compassionate person ever. So Loid pretty much calls it out. How could you be drunk? It's tea. But she's like trying to imitate her soap operas. And Yor thinking, I must have slipped alcohol. Oh my lord. emergency room. Truck-kun comes in and tries to isekai my girl, and she brushes. The car had more damage than Yor did. Yor had like a little bloody nose or something, but that car was legitimately like, the transmission was like pushed in. I'm like, what? Like, what is this? And the fact that they somehow make them kind of like come together in this way where it's like a almost mother-daughter situation where she's gonna train her, it makes sense. I mean, any normal grown-ass adult, if they hear some little girl has a crush on their husband, is gonna be like, oh, I don't have to be worried, she's a child, right? And that's pretty much exactly what Yor does. But I like the idea of like the whole like strength test. I thought that was probably my favorite part of the episode, where she gives the dude like $10,000, I imagine. I don't know. It was a wad of cash, and I know deadass that dude was only gonna give her one swing. She hands him a wad of cash. She obviously falls over because the mallet's way too heavy. I feel that, like, this dude was ready to say, well, if you got more money, you can try again. And I'm like, bro, if he does that, I'll even be mad on Becky's behalf. But she comes in, one hands that, and just, it was a very wholesome scene in general. But I think Loid's face was probably the best part of that, just being like, what even is, like, if Loid doesn't drink, this is the type of day that drives a man to drink. Like, if Loid doesn't fish, he's gonna pick up fishing because it's the only way to escape the hell for a day that is his life when this type of bullshit occurs. And I'm like, Spy Family, even at its weirdest, and I would argue worse, is still such a roller coaster of entertainment that even when it's like, why am I watching some of these things, I still can't look away for too long. The only thing I did was I literally covered up my screen when she had like Loid flirtatious with her. I'm like, I ain't seen that. My boy is too good of a dude to have this nonsense on screen. But what a fucking episode. Like, what else am I supposed to say to that? I will say the music, the background music, like at times, I don't know, man, like they were doing some really interesting pieces of music. Some I didn't recognize. Maybe it's just been a long time since we've heard some of them. It's entirely possible every piece of music that was in this episode has been heard before. If that's the case, my apologies. But I mean, there was some music that I was like, man, this could be like a Death Stranding like menu music or something. I don't know, like there was this weird almost like spy techno-y beat that was going on near the end of the episode. It's just it was very well produced audio for such a weird episode. Like it just felt like the background music actually perfectly captured everything in an episode that it didn't need to do so. Because this episode isn't important in the grand scheme of things, but they somehow made it work. Like this for me is the weakest Spy Family episode, probably not only just of season 2, but of the show as a whole. Some people might get upset with that. You're being too negative, Brandon, this, that, and the third. Listen, I get comments saying that I'm too positive. I get people saying I'm too negative. I'm just me. I just feel what I feel about the shows I enjoy. If I was to rewatch this show, I might skip this episode. I gotta be honest. That's how I feel. But do I regret watching it once? No, it's just Becky's a fucking weirdo, man. I can't put it any other way. And it's a weird episode that has me more excited for next week because I know it's going to be a nice palate cleanser to lead us off for season 3 and of course that anime original movie. So let me know what you thought down below because I wanted to check Reddit before I got up here. Reddit's thread doesn't even exist right now. Reddit didn't want to talk about the episode, I guess. I don't know. So let me know what you're feeling of this week's episode of Spy Family down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we had that full live reaction over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shadow. Alright, so today we have Yor Luca, Rolia, Sarnik, Destiny Richard, Missing No Leader, Richard Diaz, and Jade. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.